right, welcome everybody. Yes, happy summer indeed. I hope we are all on summer break now. And speaking of that, thank you all for joining us on your summer break. We definitely appreciate you spending your time with us for this workshop today. We're very excited about it. Hello, hello. Awesome. And since we've started doing some of the intros in chat, please just go ahead and keep tossing your introductions into chat. That is completely fine. Oh, thanks, Brande. She moved to the intro slide, so that was perfect. You can go ahead and go back to that slide for now. Yeah, go to the intros. Yeah, let's stay on that one for a minute. So go ahead and toss your introductions into chat for us. We would love to know what you're teaching. If this is going to be your first time teaching AP/CSP, maybe you've taught AP/CSP for a while. Have you used CodeHS before? All that kind of good stuff. Go ahead and we love to know where you're joining us from. So I love that you're adding that in. Oh, hello to Guatemala. We have been having the most international audience this summer. This is my third summer of doing these workshops, and we are seeing more and more international teachers join us. So welcome. I know timing isn't always the best for our international teachers, so we so appreciate that you are able to be here with us today. We still have people joining, so we're going to go ahead and let them join. Go ahead and keep tossing those introductions in the chat. I love seeing where you're all coming from. Hello, Tampa. And Dan from Wisconsin is joining us today. Let's see.
Lori, I saw somebody from India.
Oh, yeah. Really? Okay, perfect. I know who that is. India. Oh, and I think we had Turkey. I was seeing Turkey in there too. It's very exciting. Hello, hello, everybody. Georgia, Texas, Maryland. I'm just going to shout out states and names of things. Welcome, everybody. Oh, awesome. United Arab Emirates. Thank you so much for joining us today. West Virginia. Let's see. So cool. Oh, no worries. If you are teaching a class while you're here, no worries. We will have some breakout rooms. Do not feel like you have to participate if you join those. And definitely, we still encourage you to join if you can. And if you can't, no worries about that. We certainly understand that sometimes life intervenes and there's just other things we need to do. So no worries. Welcome to Cleveland. We have a few teachers from Tampa, Kentucky, Key West. Love it. Oh, cool. Looking at what you're all teaching as well. Hey, Nancy. I'm seeing so many names. I know this is so exciting. Oh, awesome. Dr. Pinto has a PhD in robotics. Thanks for joining us. Math teacher from Salt Lake City. Garden State. Thank you for joining us. So yeah, we have a lot of teachers who join us for these workshops from who are in summer school right now. Sometimes we even have teacher trainers who are teaching summer school, and their students might be hanging out while they're teaching. So that's pretty exciting too. I love seeing that, actually. Hello, Toronto. All right. Awesome. Okay, so we're going to get started in a minute. This is exactly what I warned Brande about as I start looking through our chat. And then I'm like, oh, I know these people. I know this person. I know this person. I want to talk to everybody. All right, a couple more people joining us. Go ahead and keep tossing anything you'd like into chat. That is a perfect place to share information about yourself. Tell us where you're coming from. And also, we're going to give you a couple opportunities to stay connected with everybody. and keep networking beyond this workshop. So stay tuned for that info to come a little bit later. We definitely, I know I like these connections. I like to make these connections. I know that's how our students learn. That's how we learn. So if we can help you stay connected, we will definitely do that. Gwendolyn teaches geometry as well. Math was not my thing, geometry especially, but I loved it. I just had to work really hard at it. All right, welcome everybody. Now you're just all trying to scare me with the math things. Pre-calc, I don't think I even touched it. I tried not to anyway. All right. So a little bit about myself, where you're going ahead and throwing your information into chat. My name is Lori, and I am a PD specialist here at CodeHS. I've been here for over 2 years now. And prior to this, I was actually in K-12 education for 20 years. I was a district technology director for all 20 of those years. And for about 10 of those years, I was also a computer science teacher. Interesting little piece of trivia about me. Long time ago, what feels like a prior life, I was actually an English teacher and a librarian. So that was my background. And I didn't think I could ever do this or would ever do this. And now I realize that I truly found my passion. And I also taught with CodeHS. So I love doing these workshops, getting to hear how you all use CodeHS, and just thinking about, ooh, how else can we use this cool platform? David, I like that. Geometry is logic, just like programming. And it is, it truly is. The number of people who've told me to not refer to myself as somebody who doesn't do math, I hear it more and more often, because that truly is what it is. There's nobody that isn't a math person, just like there's nobody that isn't a computer science or a programming person. It's all about how we approach it. And it is very logic-based. All right. So while we're still seeing a few introductions come in, I'm just going to also mention that we have our fabulous teacher trainer, Brande Johnson, with us today. And she is going to be leading us through this workshop, and she'll have a chance to introduce herself in a little bit. I am so excited about what she's going to be talking to you about today. We also have a couple of CodeHS team members behind the scenes, and they're going to be helping with answering any questions, throwing links into chat, and just making sure that everybody has what they need for our workshop today. So we have Linda, another PD specialist, with us behind the scenes. She's waving right now. And we have Lindsay, who is another PD specialist behind the scenes. She's going to be tossing a lot of links into chat too for us today. So thank you both for your help today, and thank you all for joining us. All right, let's go ahead and go to the next slide, Brande. Okay, so our first link of the workshop today is the slides. So we want to make sure you've got access to the slides if you want those right now. If you don't, no worries. I'm going to include this in the follow-up email. And just as a little side note, we are recording. You will all get a copy of the recording in a follow-up email, probably tomorrow, as well as the link to the slides. So if you'd like these now, you can head out to codehs.com/teaching-apcsp-slides, or scan that QR code to grab those. I'll leave this here for just a moment if you're trying to scan the code. All right, let's go ahead and go to the next slide. Now, because we have a good number of participants, we want to make sure that we are not going to lose any of your questions. So during this workshop today, if you've got questions, please go ahead and drop those questions into our parking lot, question parking lot. And you can get that from the QR code, or you can browse to codehs.com/teaching-apcsp-questions. And that will take you out to the question parking lot. You'll also see there we've got a lot of links at the top of that question parking lot. So if you feel like, oh, what was the link to the slides? If you've got this link, you've got the link to the other important links as well. We'll leave this here for just a moment. We've had a few more people join us, so welcome. Again, if you're just joining us, this really is a good link for you. You'll want to grab the question parking lot because you'll have links to everything else there. Perfect. All right. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. All right. So we have a ton of stuff to bring you today. So we are going to, well, of course, we're starting with our check-in, and we're going to get you enrolled in our workshop section in just a minute. And then Brandy's going to take over from there and talk about the different computer science principles course overviews here. And then she'll go into a sample lesson and talk about some different instructional strategies that she might use with her students. Then we're going to get into some more information about the create task and more resources for the APCSP courses. And after that, we're going to do a choose your own breakout session. So you can either come with me into a teacher tools and customization session, or you can go with Brande and talk more about APCSP. And if you are, especially if you're new to APCSP, or actually, I mean, I taught APCSP and I think I always needed a refresher every year to make sure I was on track with what I needed to do for APCSP. So you might want to head out with Brande to her chat about the course. And then we'll come back, send you a few links, and wrap up our workshop for today. All right, let's go to the next slide. Okay, so if we have anybody joining us who has never used CodeHS before, please head out to codehs.com/signup to create your free teacher account. Only takes a couple minutes at best. If you are creating a new account today, be aware that we do go through a verification process for all of our new teacher accounts, just to make sure we don't have any students getting accounts. We don't want anybody to have the answers or the solutions if they shouldn't have them. So you can go ahead and create that. If you already have your account, you can sign in, and let's go to that next slide. Sign into CodeHS with your educator account, and then browse to codehs.com/go/CBF21. Lindsay just dropped that link into chat, and this is going to enroll you in our workshop section for today. I'm going to take a quick peek at this over on my side. If you are having any problems either creating an account, signing in, or enrolling in that section, drop a message into the question parking lot, and somebody from the team will make sure that we help you get enrolled in the section. You will want to get enrolled in the section. If you're not able to today during the workshop, that's completely fine. But if you want to participate in the activities today that Brandy's going to go through, you may want to be enrolled in that section. And we'll also make sure that we add any resources into the section as well. And it looks like, oh yeah, you all are piling into the section. So we're going to go ahead and let you keep doing that. Brande, let's go ahead and go to the next slide. All right. And I think some people were asking about this. Now here is the attendance link. So please take a moment and click on codehs.com/teaching-apcsp-10. Lindsay just tossed that into chat. This is going to check you into the workshop and let us send you a certificate of completion at the close of the workshop. I'll actually send out those certificates. Be a little bit later this afternoon. You should have that by 5 Central. If you don't have it by tomorrow morning at the very latest, drop me an email and I'll make sure that you get that certificate. It will be a certificate for 2 hours. Let's see, we've just had a couple other people join us. I would say before clicking the attendance link, you might want to sign into CodeHS. Sometimes that will help. All right. I think we're good. Let me just double check a couple things. All right. Looks like everybody's getting enrolled. And I think when we click on this next slide, I'm going to be turning it over to Brande. So everybody, once again, I'm going to turn this workshop over to our fabulous teacher trainer, Brande Johnson. And she is going to be talking about how she uses CodeHS APCSP in her courses. So Brande, take it away, my dear.
Hi, everyone. Like Laurie said, my name is Brande Johnson. I'm coming to you from the middle of nowhere in Nevada. Not Reno, not Vegas, in the middle of nowhere. I teach at a K-12 rural school. This will be my 5th year teaching AP CSP. Like Lori, I actually have a degree in English and social studies, and got suckered. Like I saw somebody in the chat, got suckered into teaching AP CSP and thought, oh my goodness, what am I doing? I am not a programmer at all in the slightest. But actually I love it. It's my favorite thing to teach now and takes up the majority of my schedule. I teach computer science 4 out of my 6 periods a day with CodeHS, and I absolutely love it. My kids love it. And so I'm going to go over a little bit of the course with you for today. So AP-CSP is a high school level course. It takes about 125 hours to complete. It's a year-long course, as we know, because they have that AP test in May that the students have to do. Well, not have to, but should do. I highly recommend it. I teach it 9th through 12th grade. So I have anywhere between freshmen and seniors, predominantly freshmen this year, and they did really good on their AP test. So I was really proud of them. So it can be taught to any high school level class that you're willing to take. Your kids, some people think I'm crazy to take in freshmen, but actually my freshmen are the most easygoing group of humans. So I tend to like teaching it to freshmen. So a little bit about the course. It does have several different units that CodeHS has, lots of different projects. There's so many different opportunities in the course to get students ready for that AP exam. All the questions are kind of like release questions from AP. And so a lot of the questions my kids see on the quiz are very similar to the ones they see on the exam, which is great. There's lots of opportunities for them to do like building projects that lead them into the create task, which is so great, so that my kids don't feel like they're just being thrown into the create task. They're very well prepared because of all the different projects that are available throughout the course. The cool thing that I love about CodeHS is that there really isn't a difference at all between whether or not you're doing Java, JavaScript, or Python. Both the classes are the same, which is amazing. And then they do have an AP review, which we'll go over at the end, which is probably my favorite thing, which I wish more teachers utilized. Because I know it really did help my kids get ready for the test, and it does provide them like kind of something to do in between when the create task is due in the exam. So they do have a lot of different things that we have in CodeHS. So they have the Carol module. Carol is the name of this adorable dog that the kids get to program. The kids always ask me why it's not a cat, and I have no idea, but I just like to boss around the dog. And let's face it, cats aren't going to do what you tell them to anyway. So it's probably easier to train the dog than it is a cat, because cats would just be like, not happening. So in the AP CSP courses, students have a chance to learn to code with Carol, our amazing dog. There's also an internet simulators that teach them how the internet works, which is kind of one of the major units in AP CSP that College Board requires. So that's a great thing to have. And they also get to explore a digital representation using the bit editor, which is super fun. So kids get to see how binary is represented and get to create different images and things like that, which is a lot of fun for our students. So you get to choose whatever language you want in CodeHS for AP CSP. So you get the choice between JavaScript and Python. They're pretty much the same thing in terms of like what assignments you're going to see your kids doing. But they do get an opportunity to program in both languages. So you kind of pick whichever one you're the most comfortable with. I use JavaScript with my students just because it is a little easier when I teach AP CSA. But Python is a lot of fun too. So either way, no matter which one you choose, both of them are going to be pretty much identical. I've never really seen a difference in either one of them when I've looked. So yeah, it doesn't matter which one you pick. Just whichever one you're more comfortable with in terms of the two different languages. AP-CSP also has a great unit on cybersecurity. So in partnership with the National Cybersecurity Training and Education Center, CodeHS has really developed a great cybersecurity version of the AP-CSP course. So like the other two courses, this course is fully endorsed by the College Board, which is great. And so it combines the JavaScript course with cybersecurity lessons developed by the NCYTE. And the result is an AP-CSP course with an increased emphasis in cybersecurity, which is such an important tool for our students to learn. So while this course is specific in JavaScript, the NCYTE cybersecurity lessons will be available in Python, along with any integration guides that you need to integrate these lessons into your Python course. So super cool, very important for our students to kind of have an understanding of cybersecurity. Even if they don't go into cybersecurity, it is important for them to understand how to protect their data and things like that. So that's one thing that CodeHS has that I just absolutely love. It's so great for our students to get to have that and see it and how it's going to work in the real world, which is amazing. All right, so we're going to look at our sample lesson. This is one of my favorite ones to do with students just because they, for the life of them, cannot understand why CodeHS doesn't give them the ability to turn right. But in reality, it really just is a great way for them to learn some problem solving skills, not because Carol's not smart enough to go right. Carol can absolutely go right. We just don't give them the ability right off the bat. They need to struggle first, which is a great thing for them to learn because perseverance is such an important skill in computer science and life. All right, so the CodeHS course structure is pretty simple to follow. It's really great. Everything's broken down into these amazing modules. So you have the main content modules, which covers the content of the course. And then they also have these really great supplemental modules that contain additional practice for our students to gain more skills. But one of the things I love is if you're starting to come down to crunch time, you can move those supplemental modules out to make room for maybe giving them extra time on the create task or whatever it is they need. Otherwise, you can definitely add those in later, maybe after the AP test, to give your students something to do, the last month or so of school. So all the modules are broken down into individual lessons. They usually take anywhere from 1 to 2 class periods to complete, depending on how quick your students are going through things. It's really great because they allow a lot of scaffolding. Each module contains a summative test at the end to kind of gear what your students have learned, which is really great. And sometimes they even have projects as well, which is amazing. All the lessons are broken down into a select number of activities, usually somewhere between like 4 to 8, depending on the lesson. Typically, all the lessons start out with a video and a quiz that checks for basic comprehension. I tend to move my quizzes to the end just so I want my students to have the coding practice first, which is super easy to do, which Laura will go over later, how to customize and move things around in the modules. And so then the lessons then contain anywhere from 2 to 3 examples and then 2 to 3 auto-graded exercises, which I absolutely love because it saves me so much time because I teach 6 different classes in a day. So having that auto-grading feature is absolutely amazing because I don't have to go through and grade every single one of my students' codes line by line to make sure that they worked. So that's just a feature I love about CodeHS, and that auto-grading thing is just absolutely amazing because Lord knows we have enough to do. All right, so all CodeHS coding lessons in any course are going to follow a similar pattern to this. Lessons are going to start with a content video, which is really great. Lots of equity and diversity in the videos, which is one of my favorite things. So it shows all manner of people coding. So lots of diversity, which is super important. And then following lesson content, there's a short quiz, then one or more coding examples, and then of course the coding exercises. And so they all kind of have these really great symbols along the side. The videos, like I said, are really great. I tend to move this quiz down to the end, but it's up to you. And then almost all of them have some kind of reflection, which is really great just to get the kids thinking and discussing what it is they learned in the lesson. All right, so in a moment, we're going to walk through a sample lesson with our JavaScript course. And so as we go through this lesson, I'm going to try and hit all the parts of the lesson, but keep in mind, I may not always give you enough time to complete a task because we're in a PD format. And so we have very limited time. So we're going to look at some different ways to present the material in a remote setting. But one thing to keep in mind is that PD has a large number of participants. Okay, there are times I'm going to probably ask for student input, but will not, just because we're not going to have a ton of time. So anything we do today can be done with either the free or the pro version, depending on what you're working with. You're going to see discussion questions and the other resources used in the lesson. And so these questions are available in our lesson plans, which is a pro feature. But as a free teacher, you can always generate similar questions. All right, here we go. All right, so we're going to be looking at Unit 1, Lesson 4. Carol can't turn right. Poor Carol. All right, so what can Carol the dog teach us about programming? How are dogs similar to computer programs? So I'm going to have you answer this question in the chat. So at this point, Carol only knows a few special commands, just like a dog only knows a few special commands. Our computer is only going to know a few. So if you try to tell a dog a command that we have not taught it, nothing's going to happen, right? I bet my dog's sitting here. I can tell him to bark. He's not going to bark. He doesn't know how to bark. He's very quiet. It's great. Okay. But if we tell a computer a command and it doesn't recognize it, it's not going to do anything. It doesn't know. We haven't taught it yet. So as of right now in our unit, Carol only knows a few basic commands. She can move. She can turn left. She can put a ball down. She can take a ball. But in today's lesson, we're going to teach Carol a new trick. And so we are going to start off by taking a look at our 2-tower exercise from the last lesson. So I love this about CodeHS. They always refer back to the previous lessons. So it's all building on students and what they've learned in the past. So prior to this, we've got Carol, and she is showing off all of her amazing skills. She can move, she can turn left, she can put a ball down. Okay, all these different things. And we've also have used our function commands, which is super amazing. I love that everything is nice and organized. So we're going to have Carol learn to turn right. So this is always something I have my students do, and be like, how do we turn right without actually turning right? And so I cannot tell you how long it takes them to figure out that it takes 3 left turns to make a right turn. But it's something they will never forget. All my kids know. How do I make a right? Take 3 lefts. So this is an important skill for our students. Okay, they're learning problem solving. Okay, when you don't have the ability to turn right, how can you actually turn right without really turning right? All right, so from here, you are going to have the ability to teach Carol your own tricks. So there's a fire, and Carol needs to slide down the fireman's pole. So define and use the turn right function to help Carol get to the ground. So one of the things I love about CodeHS is that it shows you what it starts off looking like and how you need to end looking like. And so this really helps the students. Not only do they have it in verbal instructions, but they have pictures, which is super helpful for my kids. They always love to see it in pictures. So students have the ability to, depending on what you're using in CodeHS, they get blocks or they get to type up their code. I highly recommend letting your kids have the blocks, because if you don't and they find out there are blocks, they will never let you live that down. I have kids that harass me all the time about not giving them the ability to code with blocks, and they couldn't believe that they had to type it all those months. And well, it is what it is. All right. So we're going to give you some handouts. We're going to bust out into some breakout rooms, which is super fun. So it's your turn. So in small groups, you're going to take about 5 minutes to work through this worksheet. In a second, they're going to put you in breakout rooms, which is super great. Once you're there, go to the folder link that's here and that they'll put in the chat, because that's how they roll. And so you're going to then select the file corresponding to your breakout room number. And so this worksheet does ask you to draw Carol's resulting world. Don't worry about that. We're not going to, make you show off your art skills today. For now, I just want you to discuss what the result world would look like. You don't need to draw it. My dogs look terrible. Don't ask me to draw. But I do want you to complete the remainder of the sheet. So you're going to have about 5 minutes, which I know is not a lot of time, but you got this. I have faith in you. You can do it. Have fun with Carol. Did I miss anything?
Nope, that was perfect. Grab that link, and you want to have the link, and I'm going to open up the rooms in 5 seconds as I slow down my talking. And we'll go ahead and open up the rooms now. Oh, in hosts, I left you in those selections for breakout rooms. It's okay if you don't join, but feel free to join if you'd like. And if anybody's just joining us, we're just heading into some breakout rooms. Perfect. Getting everybody where they need to go. Love it. I'm going to go ahead and pause recording for now.
Is being recorded.
Okay, I think we have everybody back together again. So Brande, whenever you're ready.
Myself. All right, so hopefully you had lots of fun with Carol. She's such a good dog. I wish my dogs were as well trained as Carol is, if only. All right. So wrapping up, any questions come up with Fireman Carol? Go ahead and answer this in the chat. Give me a couple minutes. Ooh, are there any answer sheets? That's a great question.
I can drop an answer out there for everybody so you can see the answers. I'll actually add that into the section so you can see that too.
Lori, quick question. Are these worksheets available in there too, where we could actually, because I know that some of my students are going to be virtual and that, you know, I want them all actively to be doing something. We were face-to-face all last year, but I have volunteers who will be coming in. So are worksheets like this available? I never used any if there were.
So for free teachers, some of the handouts will be available to free teachers. Some of the handouts, the bulk of the handouts for the entirety of the course are a pro feature, but I think this was one that is definitely available as well. So.
Okay, we did pay for the pro. I just need to see where to access it. So when you get to the resources, cool.
Absolutely, and I can demo that as well. So perfect.
Lori and Brande, there's a couple of questions in the chat as well about how to switch from code view to the puzzle pieces, and then is it possible to do block coding in the sandbox?
So you can actually decide if you want block coding turned on or off. And I think we had it on for at least one of the samples, but you'll see where students are able to actually turn that on or off at the top of the code editor, if you've allowed that as a teacher. If you decide you don't want to allow your students to have block coding, you can actually turn that off for your entire section. So that's a really nice feature. And I wanted to say too, I echoed what Brande said about using blocks. I know for a while I was always torn about it, but for a while I would allow blocks. And what I always found is that my students shut it off long before I ever turned it off. They just got tired of it. They like to copy and paste their code as opposed to trying to figure out how to copy and paste blocks. But hopefully that helps. And as far as the sandbox goes, you can also use blocks in the sandbox too. Yes, I'm stopping and thinking about that to make sure I'm right on that. Yeah, so you can definitely use blocks. Keep in mind, blocks are only available for certain courses. That includes Carol. So if you are in the Carol, oh, perfect. And Brandy's pulling up where you can see the blocks. But blocks are available for Carol in JavaScript and the Intro to CS course. So you would have access to blocks with the Carol lessons for APCSP. For Python, they are not available. All right. And Brandy is giving us a nice quick little demo where you can actually go to set blocks for all of your sections. So the access controls will be a pro tool, but you can still turn blocks on and off for your entire section in section settings as well. But under course settings and block text settings, that's where you'll be able to turn those on and off. Perfect.
Yeah, the blocks are really helpful. I tend to, I don't let them have it for the first couple of lessons just so that they can really appreciate it. And one of the features I love is I can pick particular lessons. So I don't tend to let them have it for the first 3 in Carol, just because maybe it's because I'm an English teacher. I really want to drive home the importance of spelling and correctly punctuating your code. So I don't let them usually have it for at least these first 3 lessons. And then once we get to really functions, and functions can be really tricky, then I give them the block coding. And I don't know, it makes them look at me kind of like, oh, thank you, teacher. Like, you're welcome. But they don't really know that I'm just torturing them the first couple of lessons, that I don't let them have it. But I don't know. Like I said, it's probably the English teacher in me that I make my kids wait to get that feature. I did not know, I'm not going to lie, the first semester I ever taught coding with CodeHS, I didn't know that you could turn it on. And so my kids in my entire first semester class didn't get the block feature when I was just teaching an introductory coding class to junior high. And then the second semester I found it. And so I was like, oh, I'm going to turn this on. And the kids found out in second semester from the first semester kids. They're like, oh no, we get blocks and it's just drag and drop. And they're like, you got what? We had to type the whole semester. And I was like, and then they took APCSP this year and they were like, I cannot believe you did that to us. You're so mean. I'm like, I didn't know. I'm sorry. But
could you please slow down that about the block?
Sure.
So is it useful for what? The blocks?
So the blocks are really useful because then you just have the ability to drag and drop your code into CodeHS. So instead of where I would have to type in every line, for the kids, they just have the ability to have these really cool drag and drop blocks that already have the code pre-written, perfectly punctuated, perfectly spelled. So it's a lot easier for the kids to just drag. So this is block coding. So they can just drag and drop it in wherever they want, versus if we switch to code view, they would have to type this all up by hand. And it definitely will take longer for them to type it than if you just use the block view where you can just drag and drop any of the tools. And this way it's perfectly punctuated and stuff.
So is it useful for every single program? How did you get into this way, the blocks one?
The blocks. So I set that up as a teacher in my course settings. So if you go to your courses, where you can see all of your different tabs in the course settings, they have a block/text settings. And so I enable that for my students.
Okay.
And you just have to click yes or no to enable it for your students. And it makes it a lot easier for them to code. It's faster.
Okay.
And I can go ahead and demo where that's at again too.
And then I saw somebody ask about comments. And there's a comment. Block too. So the comments are great. I usually have my students comment, especially when they're doing functions, to explain what their functions are doing. And this comes in handy later when they go to do their create task, just so they can explain what each function in their program is doing. And it makes it easier for the scorer if they have any questions about what the function's actually doing and stuff like that. And then if anybody needs to go through and debug their code, it's easier just to kind of see, oh, this is what this function's supposed to do, and to see whether or not it's working. All right, so some different alterations. So you can, depending on whether you're teaching this virtually or in person, you can teach through the slides, which I think is a pro feature. Lori will have to correct me if I'm wrong. Are the slides a pro feature?
So they are not actually I'm just going to combine the words. Free and pro teachers alike can actually access slides or the video. And so if you are on that, that first video content, what you can actually do is right at the top, you're going to be able to switch between slides or the video itself. So it's pretty cool.
Awesome.
And while Brandy's pulling that up too, I was just going to mention that I actually was a free teacher the entire time I used CodeHS in my own classroom, which was from 2014 to about 2019. So you can absolutely use CodeHS on the free plan and teach full courses as well. Would I have loved Pro? Absolutely. But since I didn't get it, I still really wanted all of that content and that curriculum and the courses, and still able to teach the full course. So just as a little side note.
Yeah. Yeah. And so like, I love the video just for the fact, like if I had kids virtual, it was really easy for them to watch the video, and it usually gives you an option of watching it through CodeHS or through YouTube. So you do have that option. My district blocks YouTube, so they don't really get to use any YouTube. But if I'm teaching it in person, I always do the slides and I go through it with my kids and have them take notes. And to me, it's just, it's a lot easier. You can also, if you don't want to go through the slides, like if you're not feeling confident, you can watch the video together as a class and then discuss it throughout it. I always have my kids take notes through the videos just because it'll come in handy later when they go and do it. The examples are super important because it's kind of a really, it's not kind of, it is a great way for students to get an idea of what they're going to be asked to do. And it's kind of like the baby steps of practicing it before they get a much more difficult exercise. And so when they're doing the example, I usually have them do it with a partner and have them discuss, okay, what are we being asked to do? How does the program set it up? What might I be asked to do in the exercise? Or how can I change it and customize it? So in the exercises, depending on how big your classes are, if you're in person or virtual, they can complete the exercises individually. They can do them in small groups. And then they can also do pair programming, which if you haven't done that before, you just partner up students and have the students work on it together. So I usually have a driver and a navigator. So the driver's job is to actually drag and drop. So they're the one touching the computer. And then the navigator is the one that's like, hey, I think you should do this. And then they test it out together. And so that's how I run my pair programming. Small groups. I mean, my classes are really small, so I don't do a ton of small groups. Pair programming is the most I do. But if you have like larger classes of like 30, 40 students, small groups might be beneficial. I just always worry that, you know, 1 or 2 kids are going to end up doing all the work anyway. So pair programming is usually the way I go. All the lessons have an opener and a closer. So there are discussion questions in the beginning and are at the end that are really great. And then of course, there's the quiz, which is super great. So the quiz just gives the students, and they're not more than a couple of questions. It's not going to take the kids forever. So for example, on the Carol Can't Turn Right, there's 2 questions. And so it's super quick for the students to do. I know some schools, especially when you have like summative and formative assignments, this I consider a formative assignment. So like they don't get to retake it or anything. So I usually push this to the end. And that way it's kind of my like, okay, you know, did you get everything I wanted you to out of the lesson? And then you have the handouts, which are super cool. So like inside, I'm in the lesson plan right now. So if you scroll down, so you have your objectives. So if like you have an administrator who wants you to write these on the board, it's nice and easy. It's already there for you. So you don't have to go super crazy. And then you have your handouts. And so I know somebody in the chat had asked about like a teacher version. So you do have the student version of the handout and then the teacher version. So I put these on my Google Classroom. because they're all in Google Docs. So it's really easy just to put that in your Google Classroom, or if you're using like Schoology or any other LMS, you can put the worksheets right in there for your students to use. So, and then they can collaborate too if you wanted to give them that ability to collaborate on the handouts and things like that. But you can always print them, of course, too. It just depends on what works best for you in your classroom. We're on a copy limit, so I try not to print anything ever, just because I'm only allowed to copy so much during a semester. And I save that for my ELA and social studies classes. All right, so I'm going to go a little bit into the create task. So this is your first year teaching AP CSP. The test, the College Board exam for AP CSP is broken down into two parts. You have the create task, which is a program code that the students have to submit to show their programming knowledge. And then of course they have the multiple choice test. So in addition to teaching AP CSP, I actually work for the College Board as well. And I'm an AP scorer. So I get to spend hours and hours at the end of the year scoring all the exams. This year, I think we had 25,000-ish, which is a lot, and about 500 scores. So it takes us about a week-ish to get through everybody's stuff. So the create task is a portfolio task. Students have to demonstrate their coding knowledge for the AP test by writing and explaining their programming code. And then they have specific guidelines through College Board on what their code has to have. And so students have to have at minimum 12 hours of classroom time to complete this. And so one of the things I love about CodeHS is I actually move the create task unit up, because I want my students working on their create task generally in mid-February, and it's not due until usually the first week of May, because I want to give them plenty of classroom time. I don't want to feel like we're crunched for time in May with the deadline looming before us. And then any additional time that they have in class, if they finish an assignment early, I always tell them like, okay, we'll go work on your create task, like meet up with your partner if you're working on the coding part with a partner, or start working on your written responses and things like that. So College Board does allow students to collaborate on their create task. They can only collaborate on the coding portion of it. They are not allowed to collaborate on the written portion in any way, shape, or form. It's very language agnostic, so you can use any programming language to do the create task. The scorers are very knowledgeable in looking at different coding languages. There were some that there was one I had to defer. I didn't even know what language it was. And so the create task accounts for 30% of their overall AP exam score. So it's really important that they do this. You know, you're not going to pass the test without it. So you do have to have instructions for input as part of the requirements. You have to at least use one list or other collection type to represent the collection of data that's stored. And then in the written response, they have to explain how that contributes to the overall functionality of their program. So it's not just good enough like, oh yeah, you know, I use this list, but why did you use that list? And how does it help make your program run smoother? And how does it make your program shorter? So how does it contribute to abstraction? So, and then you also have to have at least one procedure that contributes to the program's intended purpose. Okay. And then an algorithm that includes sequencing, selection, and iteration. So you have to have a function. That function has to have parameters. And it has to be something that, you know, that helps with your code, make it run faster. And so you also have to have instructions for output, tactile, audible, visual, textual, based on the input and program functionality. So you have to explain how the user interacts with your program. And that's all part of the create task. So lots of things that they're looking for. There's a very structured rubric that students have to do. So there's written response prompts that College Board allows. And so the link's there and they put it in the chat, which is amazing. The scoring guidelines, it's super important to walk through this with your students because I cannot tell you how many students lose points because they forget something super tiny that we're looking for in the scoring guidelines. And so just spending time, I mean, I spent at least a week with my students just going over samples and we sample score some of the released create tasks so that students have a good idea what College Board is looking for and then what we're definitely not looking for when it comes to it. So in prompt 3A, students have to describe the purpose of the program as well as the input and the output. So for row 1 scoring, you have to describe the overall purpose of the program. Okay, and then you have to describe what functionality of the program is demonstrated in the video. So the kids have to record the video. They don't record themselves. College Board does not want to see your students' faces. And they don't even have to talk during the video. They just have to have a video of the program running. And this, I'm not kidding, is the number one reason kids lose a point on row 1 is they confuse the purpose and the functionality. So the purpose of your program is something like, oh, the purpose is to entertain people, or the purpose is to help kids do better in school. But the function of the program is the students click through this and they have to play a game. And so like an example of a game they did, like is the dinosaur game if you don't have internet. Some kids recreate that. And so they explain how the user interacts with it. So those are two very different things. And then describing the input and output of the program demonstrated in the video. So what does the user put into the program? And then what do they get out of it? Okay, so if you're having them put in their birth date and then it's supposed to go through the program and then spit out what their star sign is, that would be showcasing the input and output. So in 3B, students have to show the use of a list and describe how it's being used to manage complexity. So they do have to specifically identify the name of the variable representing the list being used. And then they have to have pictures of their code segments. So screenshots that they have to do. And it can't be just like a trivial list. It has to be something that you couldn't do with a single variable that has to store like a massive amount of data and stuff. And it doesn't even have to be like 100 pieces of data. It can be like, 10 pieces of data, anything that contributes to the overall abstraction of your code and making it shorter. And so then they also have to describe what the data contained within the list is representing in the program. So how is it even being used? And so if they don't have a list, or the list that they show is very different from the list that they're describing in their written response, they're not going to receive a point for this section. And so the list has to be something that manages the overall complexity. And so I've seen this being done in different ways. Like I've seen a list that was like all the NBA teams or like NBA player stats and anything that helps them kind of showcase, the fact that they know how to use a list and then call it within their function. Okay, and then for row 3, they have to explain how the named selected list manages complexity in the program code by explaining why the program code couldn't be written or how it would be written differently without the list. And so this gives the students an ability to showcase where abstraction comes into play with their list. So students have to explain how their program code couldn't function without this list or how it would be just extremely long without it. In one of the student responses that I saw, a kid was like, so instead of my program code being like 150 lines of code, it would be like 600 lines of code because I would have to store all of this basketball data. And yeah, that would definitely be a lot more difficult. And then trying to call it in the functions and get the data from the list. So the list is super important. It's, 2 points out of the whole create task, which is a lot when you break it down. Then in response, in prompt 3C, you have to provide a user-created procedure and a call to that procedure. So in row 4, you have to describe what the identified procedure does and how it contributes to the overall functionality of the program. So this is where students have to create a function. So a procedure is just a function. So our students have to create this function. It can't be something that they pulled off the internet. It has to be something that they created themselves. And it can't be a call to a built-in function or something done by their collaborating partner. It has to be something that they create. And it has to be vital to their program. If it's not vital and it's just there to be there, they're not going to get awarded a point for this row. And so the procedure is super important. And one of the things is the procedure has to have sequencing, which is steps in the algorithm. It has to have selection, so it has to contain an if or an if-else statement. And then it has to have iteration. So it has to have a loop. So either a while loop or a for loop. It has to have all three to be given a point in row 5. Then the students have to go and explain in detailed steps how the identified algorithm works in enough detail that somebody could recreate it. That is, I cannot tell you the trickiest part, is you have to be able to explain, and there is unfortunately a word count limit, how somebody could recreate your function. And so sometimes this can be really hard for students to do, and it's extra hard for us as a teacher because we cannot tell them how to do it. You can just say, hey, listen, just explain it in enough detail where somebody could recreate it. And one of the ways I teach this in my class, and this sounds crazy, but it's through Legos. So I usually give the kids like 10 Legos, and they have to create something, anything with the 10 Legos. And then they have to write down instructions for somebody to recreate that exact same Lego creation, whatever it was. And then I take pictures of it because I want to make sure it looks identical to theirs when somebody else tries to do it. And so giving them practice at this really helps for the create task, because students really need to know how to verbally explain what it is they're doing in their program. And so this is great because English teachers, we always want our kids to be able to explain and verbalize what it is they're thinking and doing. And so, College Board wants them to be able to do this. And it's an important skill, especially when they go to get a job later on in life. And then 3D in row 6, they have to describe 2 calls to the procedure identified in written response 3C. And each call has to pass a different argument that causes a different segment of code in the algorithm to execute. So in order to get this point, the students have to describe the conditions being tested by each call to the procedure and then what the result was. And so your functions parameters need to be part of your selection criteria. So it has to pass through a different part of the if statement, okay, or the while loop, okay. And so it can be a while loop that doesn't execute any times, but it has to go through the different iterations. So if your user's inputting, if you're trying to do like a math equation, you would have different inputs. And so they would have to explain how that runs through their procedure. And on this one, students tend to have an issue because it's not running through a different part of their code segment. So making sure students are able to describe this in detail is really important because they have to explain what the user inputs and then how it runs through their program in one way, and then how a different input runs through a different segment of their code. And so this is really important in the create task. Students have to do this, in order to earn that 6th point. So there's lots of examples that CodeHS provides, which I absolutely love. Like I said, it's really important to run through these with your students so that they can see what a good example looks like and then a bad example. If you're teaching any other subject area, you always want to give them what it is they're looking for and then what they're not looking for and have them discuss it. It's just a really good way for students to kind of see how theirs should look without having them copy it. So CodeHS provides lots of different samples through their instructions. And like I said, it will run it through. I will tell you as a scorer, I always love seeing the ones from CodeHS, just because it's interesting to see how each student interprets the create task, because they're allowed to create a program for anything that they want. And it's really interesting to see what the students come up with, because sometimes they come up with things where I'm like, wow, I wish this existed in the real world. And they just do a really great job. So CodeHS allows students to go through and look at the different coding segments, how they screenshot it, and then an explanation of each of the different ones, which is great. It's a super useful tool and definitely worth the time. Because like I said, the create task is 30% of their overall score. And so by going through this and spending the time, I guarantee your pass rate will be a lot higher if you just spend the time. I promise you. Okay, and then students have to submit a video the full program code, and the written responses. They have to have all three things into College Board. Videos don't need any narration. They do have to be less than a minute. We don't have a whole ton of time to be sitting there watching like 5-minute long videos of their program code running. So the shorter, the better. And then written responses are entered directly into College Board. There are some templates that you can get through College Board where students can type it up on Google first, which to me is really beneficial because then they have the benefit of spell check. That is super important, although that's not a criteria. Like we're not going to dock them as long as we can pretty much understand what it is they were going for. We're not going to grade them on their spelling or their grammar, which is really beneficial when I have like students with disabilities, because some of them just, they can't. And so as long as it makes enough sense, they'll be fine. And then students have to submit and finalize it before it will be considered. This is a very important step on College Board. I can't tell you how many students will go in and upload it and think, oh, I'm done, but they didn't mark it as final. Once they've finalized it, they're locked from any changes, but you can return if there's some kind of like an upload error. But other than that, once they click final, it's done. They can't edit it. They can't change it. It's submitted and then they're finished. And I cannot tell you, like we have a little party at the end when they're done with their create task because it is a full process for our kids. They spend a lot of time on their create task. It's huge. So,
Hey, Brandy, I'm thinking, should we give them a little bit of time to take a look at those two sample? Yes, those. Yeah, I think let's maybe do a quick breakout room. We'd love for you to get in and take a little bit of time to take a look at one or both of these. If you've just got time for one, that is totally fine. But like Brandy said, I think it's so valuable that we go through this with our students. And so it's really helpful for all teachers to have some time to go through these as well and practice scoring them. So Lindsay has tossed these two links into chat, and then she also grabbed the link to the scoring guidelines too, if you want to take a look at those. But this is a really great strategy to kind of prepare and feel like you're ready to help your kids prepare for the create task and really understand that rubric. So go ahead and grab those links from chat. So you'll want to grab the links for these two items, and you might have them already if you've got the slides pulled up. And then also maybe grab those scoring guidelines too. All right. And we'll give you a few minutes in a breakout room and to let you go through, and you might want to just pick one of these to talk about with your group. And I will go ahead and open up the breakout rooms. Yep, we'll go ahead and take a break. Actually, we can probably take a break right after this breakout room as well. We'll do the breakout room, we'll come back, we'll take a quick break. We'll just shift that break up a little bit. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and open up the rooms. See y'all shortly. Everybody. There we go. I'll make sure to jot down any of that and include that in our follow-up. So good questions. So, all right, whenever you are ready, Brandy.
okay. So some of the additional things aside from just the great content that CodeHS offers, they do also have their hub, which is new. And so it includes all things that you could potentially want for APCSP. And it just, I'm going to go ahead and pull it up because it's just so amazing. It gives you all kinds of different, so it gives you kind of a breakdown of the courses as well. You can create your own course, talks about the computer science pathway. So whatever it is your school or district chooses, mine's a 3-year pathway. So I actually have a class in between CSP and CSA. It will go through all the different test prep stuff that they have. Their question of the day is super fun. I tend to do this as like a closing activity just because it's just fun for the kids and for me to see how it is they're doing. And then just a lot of great resources for teachers. And so this will give you their breakdown of how they did in comparison to other people, which is great because I know somebody asked. But it just gives you all kinds of great resources and stuff, product updates, which are super cool. This is how I tend to learn about all the new amazing things that CodeHS is coming out with, which is just amazing. There's so many cool things that they've added to the hub. Did I forget anything, Lauren, about the hub? It's so amazing. Check out the hub.
Nope, I think that's you definitely hit it. The issue is that we have so much stuff that sometimes you might be thinking, where did I find this? Where do I go to get to this? Go to the hub.
Yeah, just go to the hub. Everything is in the hub. And then they also have lots of great practice problems to really help your students. I know somebody had talked about like lists and things like that. You can actually go to the ones that show some of the practice problems regarding list. Anything that you think your students need more help with going in, the practice levels are really great. And so students can work on this on their own, or you can like assign them specific things. I have, like I said, a really small class. And so like if I see a kid didn't do really well on like their exam for functions, I'll make them go in and do the practice problems for functions in order to kind of like remediate their test up to a passing score. And so the students have to just show me like, you could go back in and reset the test and have them just retake the test, but that doesn't show that they actually learned anything new from it. But by assigning these practice problems, you actually are going to make your kids, okay, now show me that you've actually changed and improved your understanding of this particular one. So the practice problems are amazing. And then one of the things that, I could not get my kids through the exam without the review course. And so this is an additional course that you would assign your kids, and it allows them to have additional review materials to help them prep for the exam. And so students are getting an opportunity to explore past as well as new multiple choice questions in order to prep them for the exam. So College Board CodeHS isn't just making up these questions off the fly. They're taking release questions from the exam that oftentimes you see on the exam again, in order for the students to get an opportunity to really see what the exam is going to look like. And so I highly recommend having the students go through this. And one of the great things about it is the review course in CodeHS is language agnostic. So it doesn't matter what programming language, because College Board isn't just going to always use the same one. They're going to want to know, can kids recognize this in any programming language, because they are like cross-platform. So definitely check out the review course and assign it to your kids. It's great. This is just a link of all different kinds of things. So additional resources, of course, there's AP Classroom and College Board, lots of great things. Obviously, they're the ones testing our kids. So keeping up to date with what they're going to be requiring. And then there are all kinds of message groups out there. CodeHS has a great Facebook group. If you're not on it, I highly recommend it. It's great to just like, if you have a question about something, or you're thinking you want to have a resource for your kids, but don't know how to create it. If you put it out there, I cannot tell you how many times people will be like, oh, hey, I created a vocabulary list for my students, and then they'll share it out. And it's just great. Because especially if this is your first year, or you're like me and we're not a coding teacher, like Lori and I were English teachers first. It's great to have a community, because I teach at a small school. I'm the only programming teacher at my school and only like one of 2 in my entire district. I don't have a lot of people to collaborate with. So that Facebook group has been super great for me. Okay, so lots of great resources. These are the ones to the hub, the curriculum, all the different things. Lots and lots of great stuff. Which is great, which I know it sounds overwhelming. There's a lot of great stuff out there, but it's all just to make you be the best AP teacher possible, because it's hard, but you got it, because CodeHS has your back. All right, collaboration time. Da, da, da. All right. All right, so collaboration, super great. I talked about this in my breakout room. Students can work on a project at the same time in the sandbox, and sandbox is a feature that everybody has access to. It's not a pro feature. Somebody had asked me about that. So the sandbox is kind of like a Google Doc for CodeHS. So your students can collaborate within the sandbox. So you can create your new program. You can choose your language, which is great. So like if I want to create a new program for my students, and then within the sandbox, they can share that out to somebody else. So if they just click on the collaborate button and send this link to their partner can come in and they can simultaneously work on the same program together, which is great. If they're collaborating on the create task or on anything, the sandbox is super easy to get to. It's great, super simple to use. And my students love it because it's like getting to work on a Google Doc, but inside of CodeHS with programming. So the sandbox is a super fun tool. You can also use the sandbox to create additional assignments for your students and then share it out with them. So it's pretty limitless. All right, so now you get a chance to try. So you're going to choose room based on language and level. All tasks are relatively straightforward, not too challenging. Even if you're a beginner, you should be able to help contribute. And then there'll be a link to the sandbox collaboration activity. Lori, do we have time for this or no?
And actually, I think what we're going to do, we were just having a quick back channel chat about that just because of our time. So
Okay.
I think what we'll do is we're going to go ahead and not put you in breakout rooms for this, but because I've got those collaborate sandboxes all open up, if you want to open up the link that I think Lindsay just tossed into chat, that is going to take you out to the doc with the collaborate links on them. And you can absolutely jump into any of those. There's JavaScript programs started and there are Python programs started. So if you'd like to take a look at those, by all means, have at it, code away. So those are set up for you all to try out and see how the collaborate works. And you can definitely, awesome, we have a ton of people checking those out. Feel free to click into those. I'm going to leave those rooms open and available to collaborate in. So if you'd like to jump into those, you certainly can. We just don't have a ton of time to jump into breakout rooms and actually complete activities. So but I definitely want you to experience that. And then during the breakout sessions, if you've got the final breakout session, if you've got questions about how to start a collaborate session, I think either of us, whether you're in my room or with Brande, we could each do just a quick demo of that if you've got questions about how to start that. Cool. I love seeing that we have a lot of people joining those collaborate sessions. So that is pretty cool. Definitely click on them. Don't be shy. You can definitely spend some time coding in those. And I will leave those open for at least the remainder of this workshop and probably a little bit beyond. I'll just leave them open for a while. So if you want to play, you definitely can. It's a fabulous tool. I was very, very jealous that was something that wasn't available to me when I was still in the classroom. So, but as a team, we all use this tool. It is amazing. So definitely try it out. All right. So in the Google Doc that Lindsay shared, you'll see the link to the collaborate sessions. You should see them. Let me just double check. And I can grab that link one more time and toss that out there. Sorry, I'm a little bit laggy. All right. Yep, and you'll see that in each of those, in that table, you'll see the links. So you'll have to open up the doc and then you can click on the links included in that doc. Perfect. And thanks, Mary. Mary just shared out that page as well. And if you want to keep any of that code, any of that starter code, by all means, go ahead and fork the code, and that will save a copy of that code into your own sandbox as well. And you can use that with your students if you like. Okay. All right, everybody. So Brande has shared a ton of good info with all of us. I always feel like the AP-CSP workshop, it's one of the most valuable. They're all valuable, but I think for AP-CSP teachers the stakes are pretty high. We want our kids to succeed. We want our kids to pass by all means and get that credit. And there's so many things to be aware of as we start planning for AP-CSP. So I'm so glad that I've been seeing comments about how this has been helpful so far. Really excited to see that. We will definitely be bringing you more AP-CSP workshops as we get into the next school year too, to help you plan and be prepared with anything you might need as you start working with your kids. So what we'd like to do with our remaining time, we have about 20 minutes left. So that gives us about 15 minutes to jump into our final breakout rooms of this workshop. So we're gonna just create one breakout room that you will be able to join if you'd like to do some more curriculum chat. Maybe you want to talk about the AP-CSP courses. You've got questions about AP-CSP in general. You can definitely jump into the breakout room number 1. I've actually called it AP-CSP course chat, and Brande is going to be joining that room. And you can have a great discussion, maybe do a little Q&A there. And I think Linda's jumping over to that room as well. So if you've got some questions, that'll be a great place to get those, to have some discussions. Then if you want to learn more about, maybe there's some tools or some other, some customization features you'd like to see, I'm going to be doing some demos in the main room. So if you want to see some customization strategies and how to customize your course. And by the way, that is a tool that's available for free and pro teachers. Stay in the main room and we will start that demo shortly. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the rooms, and you can choose if you want to join breakout room number 1 or stay in the main room. So I'll let you go ahead and choose your room. I'll give you a few minutes to choose. Brande has headed over to her room. So if you'd like to do some more AP-CSP chat, you can go ahead and head over there. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen in just a moment. And Lindsay, I've lost my my picture. So Lindsay, if you're still with me, if you want to keep an eye on breakout rooms or chat and make sure that I'm not missing any questions people have about moving around, that would be great. Give me 1 second while I get ready to go, everybody. And actually, we're going to go ahead and let this continue to record, because since I'm in the main room, we'll be able to keep recording this. So that's perfect. All right. Bear with me one more moment. I think I'm going to go ahead. All right. I'm going to share my screen. And let's get into some demos. And if you've got specific questions, go ahead and toss those into chat. Lindsay, if I missed something, just give me a heads up that I'm missing an important question or something I need to demo. Let me pull up my chat again so I can see everybody. There we go. Okay. All right. So I thought what I would do. Oh, perfect. Okay. So if you're trying to join a breakout room, you're going to want to look probably towards the bottom of your Zoom screen. and you're going to see the breakout room icon. Go ahead and click on that, and you'll be able to choose Brandy's breakout room. So you can head over to that one. And if you need some help, Lindsay can also move you over to that room. And so just throw a note into chat and she can help you out with that too. All right, everybody. So I'm going to go ahead and start by showing you just a few things about how to customize. So, yep, the main room is definitely recorded. So if you'd like to head over to Brandy, that is not a problem. Even if you all leave me, I'm still going to do a quick demo. So we can do that. I'm very, very good at just talking. I have dogs here that listen to me all day long, and I think they're sick of me. So, all right. So we're going to do a little talking about how to customize your course, because I think that gets really important with any course that we teach. But I know I did it a ton with my AP-CSP class. The AP-CSP is one that is really meant for any student to be able to take, regardless of their actual, where they're at ability-wise. It's really meant to be an accessible course. And so this is one that I was very near and dear to my heart, but I also did a lot of scaffolding because I invited everybody into the course. So I want to give you just a little idea of how you can start doing that. Okay, so Wendy, I might answer some of those questions as we go. So I'm just going to go ahead and start doing this demo. And if there's something I missed, we can definitely come back to that. So I thought I'm just going to come into the workshop section that we created for the workshop today. So that way you can all see the results of how I customize this. You might need to refresh as we go, but you'll be able to see what happens. So when I'm a teacher, when I come into a section, I generally come in on that roster page. To customize, I'm actually going to go to the navigation bar across the top, and I'm going to click on assignments. So now I'm in my assignments page, and this is my teacher view. This is really what I think of as my teacher dashboard. I think this is probably where I'd spend the bulk of my time in CodeHS. So once I'm here, you can see this is a pretty bare bones course right now because it was for a workshop. I added this module for workshop resources. So you can see that you can get to the slides here. You can get to the question parking lot. You can also get to the workshop survey. So I added this in the exact same way that you all can add your own modules as well. So let's say you have maybe you have some classroom resources. I can add that by clicking on this blue add drop-down box here at the top, or button. And when I do that, I get a little menu with some options for some blank things that I can add. So I would start by adding a blank module. So I'm going to call this one Classroom Resources. You can call it whatever you want. If you have an image, you can definitely add your own image here. So you can see how I can customize that over here on the side. And I click Create. Now what I'm doing is creating the folder structure. So we have to have a module or a unit. Then inside that, we're going to add a lesson. So I'm going to add my lesson here. I'm going to call this First Week Resources. And I'm going to click Create. Now inside of the lesson, this is where I finally get to create an assignment. So again, I'm just building that folder structure. So I have a module, I have a lesson, and then I can add assignments. Now I can have multiple lessons inside of a module, but for now I'm just going to have this one. And I'm going to click Add New Assignment. And this is where it gets fun. This is where I can add my own custom activities. So I can create a number of things here. I can create my own quiz. I can create my own sandbox style coding exercise. So this is one that does not have an auto grader, but it's one where students can really be very creative with their activity. Here's where you can create a quiz. You can create your own auto graded practice problems if you like. That gets a little bit in depth, so I won't go into it here. You can add your own videos. So maybe you've got some YouTube videos or other videos from other sites that you want to embed. You can definitely do that here as well. You can add your own articles. This is the way I actually add my own slide deck. So when you see that I've added the workshop slides, this is the one I choose. And then I just use the Google Drive link or the Google Slides link. I can add my own notes. I can add free response questions. As Brande mentioned, we're both English teachers. We both definitely focus on writing and verbalizing, having students verbalize their thoughts. I use free response a lot for that. And embedding. Embedding is one of my favorites because I can actually embed other apps here. If we have any Kahoot users, you can embed a Kahoot. You can embed quizzes from the quizzes app. What was the other one? Oh, Quizlet. If you have students create flashcards, you can actually embed those here, or your own flashcards, your own activities. You can also embed Flipgrid, which is super cool. Padlets, and all of those kind of things. So when you actually embed one of those apps, it actually puts it into the course as an activity. I don't think I have a Padlet open. It's probably going to take me a little bit of time to get it open. So I'll see. I might come back to that one and show you how to do that in a moment so you can see what it looks like. I'll actually embed a Padlet here. But the cool thing about that is that then you actually have that third-party app embedded directly in the course, and it's in the lesson progression. So there's less opportunity for students to, say, get lost among links. You can keep them directly in the course and put those third-party apps in the lesson progression as well. So you can keep adding as many things as you want here. You can see, well, here, this is a good example of an embed. This end of workshop survey, I embedded this. This is a Google form. And instead of grabbing the share link, I grabbed the embed link. And when I do that, here is what it will look like when it loads. If we weren't on Zoom, this would be just a touch faster, but that's okay. There we go. So you can see, I can write the description here of what I want to happen. And you can actually fill out the survey here. So this is how a Padlet would look, or a Flipgrid would look. You can have students sign into Flipgrid. Well, I think they're calling themselves Flip now. They just changed their names. But you can have students sign into Flip directly from here, do the recording directly from here. They never have to actually leave CodeHS to go to the site. So super cool option. Absolutely one of my favorites. Now, if I wanted to create my own course, you can absolutely, when you're setting up a course, create it from scratch. And if you do that, basically it gives you kind of an empty unit here, but no content. Well, you can do that even if you create your own course from a CodeHS template. So if I wanted to add content to this, there's a few ways to do it. I'm actually going to come to this blue button at the top of my page. So I'm going to click on Add. And instead of focusing on these blank modules, I'm going to come down to the bottom of the list and click on CodeHS content. This is going to pull up the library, the whole CodeHS catalog, course catalog. Whether you are free or a pro teacher, you have got access to all of our courses and all of the content inside those courses. So if I want to add the rest of the APCS Principles in JavaScript course to this workshop section, I can find it, click it, and I can select the whole thing. And actually, I want to select all of the main content. And I think I had Intro to Programming in there, so I'll take that one out. This might be a mistake to do on Zoom, but I'm going to go ahead and give it a whirl anyway. And I'm going to assign selected. So depending on how much stuff I clicked and whether or not you're trying to do it while on a Zoom call, it might take just a minute, probably just a few seconds when you're doing this on your own, but it's going to add all of that content directly into your course. Quick note, while it's copying this, I knew I should not have added all the content, but I wanted y'all to have it all. As it adds it, it's actually going to put all of that new content at the very bottom of your list. So if you're adding supplemental material, maybe you're adding the shopping list lab or some of those projects, it will go all the way to the end. So you might have to move it around just a little bit. This was such a mistake. I didn't think it would take quite this long, but that's all right. But you can add any of that content. There we go. I was getting worried. It was just going to take us right to the end. Hey, and no worries if you do have to leave the workshop. This one is actually, since I'm in the main room, this part is being recorded. So There we go. It'll take just a moment to load. And now you're going to see even on your end that you've got access to all of that content here. Once it loads. There we go. And you can see all the logos. There we go. You've got all the content. Now I can actually come in, I can edit it, and I can move these around. I can also move around lessons inside of the modules by expanding them. There we go. It's starting to open. So I can move around modules, I can move around lessons, and I can move around the activities inside of the lessons too. Remember, one of the things Brande mentioned is that she likes to take those short video check-in quizzes and move them toward the end. That is actually something that I've seen a lot of teachers do. If we expand one of these modules or one of these lessons, here's our check for understanding. If I want to make this an exit ticket, I can click on these three dots. I can move it down. And now my Hello World quiz is at the very end of this lesson. So it becomes more of a exit ticket than a check-in quiz. These features are available for free as well. Super powerful feature that free teachers can access to. Everybody has the ability to customize your course with whatever content you want. You can even start by building a course that's completely empty of content. So if you build that from scratch, you can actually take content from any CodeHS course and build your own course out of it, or add your own material to make your own course. We actually had a teacher, I believe it was a teacher trainer, who had added their own content to make an entire unit for the movie Hidden Figures. So you can do a ton of stuff like that. And I'm thrilled that it's all available on the free plan as well. So super fast overview. And it looks like we are sitting at 4 minutes left. So I'm going to go ahead and start pulling people back over to our main room. This is kind of fun. I'm going to make sure I stay in the main room every time. We can
I just had a quick question.
Yeah, go for it.
So when you said we could add external content like from CodeHS, so if I created my own custom class the way I liked it, and I wanted to add some pieces of that to a new one, can I do that? Because it looks like the library only shows CodeHS content.
Oh, yep. So you're only going to see the CodeHS content when you're adding this content. Mm-hmm. But so if you click here, it's only going to show the CodeHS content. But if I, for instance, came here and let me see if I've got something I can pull up. Is one of the questions we had too was, can I actually embed content from another program like code.org, for instance? Depending on what that content is. Some of it might not be able to be embedded, but some definitely can. I know one of the things I used to use in my classroom, I like to give kids options for when we talked about binary. And so I often included the flippy do, because that was just another good option for them. So you definitely can embed some of that. And let me see if I can grab something to embed real quick. I don't think there's going to be any real quick about it, but you can definitely, like if you've got content you've created in Padlet, for instance, you can embed that. If you've got a video that you like to use, like I always used current events, especially in my AP CSP course, I would embed those news articles from other websites or videos from other websites. I would embed those directly in the course as well. Yeah,
I was thinking more of like if I create an assignment in another one of my custom courses and wanted to pull it in. I couldn't do that. I would need to create the assignment each time.
You could absolutely reuse the assignment. So if it's something you have to create in CodeHS, you can reuse that over and over again. That will actually get saved in... let me try to get over here real quick. That will actually get saved in another area. There we go. I'll open that up. And we can talk more about about your specific scenario too. If you want to shoot me an email, please do so. And then we can definitely make sure to help you with that. But if you go to create, and it's going to be a little slow for me on my end, but if you go to create, you'll actually see all of the items you've created throughout all your courses, and you can pull those into any of your courses.
Oh, okay, perfect. Yes, that's what I think.
Okay. Sorry, I wasn't quite I think I had my head somewhere else, like, oh, but you can do this. And so I apologize. I was not hearing. But definitely send me an email and we can chat more about that. Yes, Edpuzzle embeds. It's so cool. I absolutely love it. One thing that doesn't embed that I'm really bummed about, but it doesn't embed in any LMS is what's it called? Google Jamboard. If you use Jamboard, especially if you don't, maybe you like those whiteboarding apps like Padlet, but you don't pay for Padlet, so you only have the 5 that you can use. Jamboard is a free one. It does not embed, but it doesn't embed in anything. So we thought, okay, we feel better about that. All right, everybody. So I've taken you right to time. I've got just a couple of things to show you yet. And by the way, you all have been amazing. Thank you so much for all of your questions. That is exactly what we like to see from our groups. And to be very honest, we know our APCSP and actually APCSA groups are going to be phenomenal with that. You all are so passionate about what you do. It is such a joy to work with all of you. So thank you for everything you do. A few more resources to share. We have a ton of resources on this page. If you are not a CodeHS certified educator, definitely check out this program. It's a really cool way to get more involved with CodeHS. I was a certified educator. It definitely gets you some options for some additional opportunities and some swag. Swag's always fun. So definitely check that out. You will absolutely want to keep tabs on those upcoming workshops. We've got one more coming up tomorrow for this week. Check out our CodeHS micro-credentials for teachers. Join our Facebook group. And we've got another opportunity for y'all to stay connected. We have got the CodeHS community on Slack. This is a workspace for our CodeHS educators, and we are wanting to open that up so we have a place for you all to connect, not just with each other, but with the CodeHS team as well. So we're going to toss that link into chat, and please, please, please join the Slack community. It's a really cool place, and we're definitely hoping that we can start adding more educators and get some really good conversations going there. We do have an APCSP channel, so if you join, definitely search that out. You can also send me a direct message in Slack, and I'll help you get into that APCSP channel. All right. I think I have one more link. Oh, I'm so far over. Okay, here's the upcoming CodeHS workshops. Tomorrow we have teaching web design, and that one is being led by one of our teacher trainers, Kent Pendleton. Kent does a ton of his own custom assignments and custom projects. So you will want to check this out. I'm pretty excited to see what Kent is coming up with for tomorrow. I feel like I learn something from him every time, and I want desperately to be in his classroom to see how his students do this as well. So definitely check into that. Next week, we have teaching web development. You will love teaching web development. So definitely take a look at that one. Register for any of our upcoming workshops, these two and all the rest. By the way, I'm adding more probably today or tomorrow. So keep an eye on the page at codehs.com/freepd and register for any and all workshops. One more link, we have our survey. So if you could go ahead and take a moment, tell us how we did today. We would absolutely love to hear your feedback. So head out to codehs.com/workshop survey. Let us know how we did. Let us know if there's anything else you'd like to see. And we will absolutely try to bring you anything and everything to help you out as you get closer to your school year. We really want you to have a summer vacation too. So, and be watching for more APCSP type workshops. This is definitely an area that's in need of more help and support as you get started with your year. And with that, I think that's everything. I want to just say thank you. First of all, thank you to Brande. This was awesome. I absolutely learned a ton from you, Brande. This was so good. And right now, all I'm thinking is, all right, I need to go visit Brande's classroom because I want to see you teach in the worst way. This was awesome. Really enjoyed it and so much good information. Thanks to my CodeHS team members who've been out there helping as well. You guys have answered so many questions and definitely taken the pressure off of me to make sure I'm keeping up with everybody. Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody. As always, our CodeHS educators will continue to just make me smile. You all are such a passionate group of teachers, and I just am thrilled to see you at workshops and continuing to hear from you. So keep up the good work. You are all amazing. We know it's been quite a year, so please make sure you're taking care of yourself this summer too. And as always, reach out to us if you need anything at all. I will be sending out the follow-up email probably tomorrow morning. I'm going to try to get it out this evening. Might be tomorrow morning, depending on how fast I can get this video edited and uploaded. But you will see that from me soon. All right, everybody, have a wonderful day. And we will see you very soon at hopefully the next CodeHS workshop.